Hello, everyone. So there's been a lot of talk about the recent municipal authority meeting in Ballyjim's, of course, of what happened in Virginia. Now, just to put it straight, that the councillors, the first job of a council and a TD or senator, whoever you are, the first job is to make sure members of the public are safe to walk the streets of their local towns and villages. Now, in the recent meeting of the municipal authority in Ballyjim stuff, they were more worried about what people were saying online. And of course, they said about misinformation too. And don't get me wrong, there was some, and we get to that in a second. But what I'm trying to say, the councillors should be more worried about keeping people safe in Virginia instead of worrying about what people are saying online, etc. And there's not a word, not a peep about these people that actually caused all this. Like, whatever about mean comments online? What about the people who caused all this harm in Virginia, caused all this harm in County Cavan? Because straight away to all these councils, I would say to you, cop on a bit. Because the amount of people who've seen that video across the world, that's the first time some people say it was happened in America, in Australia, etc. The scene County Cavan in Virginia, these people running amok in Virginia and County Cavan. And that's not a great look in County Cavan. Hundreds of millions of people probably seen it. Who knows how many people? And what I'm trying to say is that's showing good on the Ballyjim stuff and municipal authorities. That's showing good on these councillors that are sitting in the councillors' chamber. I don't think so. I would say so. It doesn't look good. And it doesn't look good in the people of Virginia. And I put fear into people of Virginia. Not even in Virginia or County Cavan. Because the simple fact of the matter, and all the councillors can dispute this until the cows come home, but the simple matter of the fact is there's not enough Gardaí in this county. And for years this has been said. And for years there's been warned something would happen. And this, finally happened. And now they're saying, oh, how terrible, even though they knew for years about this. And the simple fact of the matter is that people, if you ask in any part of Cavan, people don't feel safe in Cavan. They nearly take Cavan's turning into Dublin. And these councillors are nearly to blame for it too, a lot of these councillors and TDs, because they're all Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil, and they will not speak up and say, this country is going to the dogs. This county is going to the dogs. None of them are willing to speak up and say these people who caused this trouble in Virginia should be put to hard labour, should be made go out and do a day's work, should be made to go out and do every day for the next 20 years of hard labour and teach them some manners, put some manners under them. And that would put the fear of God into people, put them to prison for the next 20 years and leave them there. And that's as simple as that. That's what people want. Because at the moment in time, there's not a word. You take these councils, the first thing they would say, these people are in prison. They will never get out for the next 10 years. They'll stay in there for 10 years. That'll teach them some manners. But not a peep, not a word. I've never heard one thing since they went to court 2 days after the incident in Virginia. Not a peep. And the same with other people in County Cavan. I haven't heard a word. Well, what is going to be done about these people? What is going to be done about these? Because this is unacceptable in this county that these people run amok on the streets, on a public street, at 5 o'clock in the evening, when members of the public, children walking down the street in the main street of Virginia, and seeing this kind of carry on happening in this country. This is absolutely disgraceful. And the fact of the matter, none of these councillors are willing to sit up and stand up and say this, that this is unacceptable. This is not tolerated. These people need to suffer dreadfully for what they've caused in County Cavan. And the fact of the matter, none of them are willing to speak up. Now, they did, and as I say, we'll just speak about the misinformation just in this bit. Like, they're right in some cases. Some people did say there was a knife. There was no knife. I think the evidence showed that very clear. A lot of people ran with that. I think one person said online too, and it kind of people talked about it for a while, that one of them had a gun. That wasn't true, of course not. So there was some people kind of making up their own stories in some cases. Now, we still don't know what caused the whole. There's loads of rumours, but the Gardaí have never said what actually started this whole incident. It's never been talked about. But, they should be worried. If I was a councillor, I'll just say this to the councillors. If I was a councillor, I would be more worried about protecting the people than worrying about mean comments online. Because at the end of the day, whatever about mean comments online, when somebody's actually running amok in a town, kicking people, maybe going with knives, God knows what else. But it did not in this case, but I'm just saying in general, if somebody was running around with a knife, you'd be more worried about somebody being stabbed than somebody saying something mean online about the person. I think I would be more worried about that, because that actually can do some harm to somebody. And I just want to address Councillor William Barrett, Fine Gael, just for a second. Now, he said about the recent Alva show, take example, and that one member of the public came up to him, he said he would never vote for a politician again because of the foreigners coming into this country, just to quote him. And basically they were all saying how dreadful, how far-right extremists these people are, saying to these councillors that they won't vote for them again, etc., because they won't speak out. And again, Councillor Williams, and nobody respect Councillor Williams, you should be speaking out. This country, this county, a lot of people are sick and tired of immigration. It's simple as that, because their sons and daughters my age, in their 20s, cannot get a house in County Cavan, cannot even get a house to rent. They don't buy a house. They can't even get a house to rent. And we have these councillors here saying, oh yeah, we need to worry about people coming in from Timbuktu, etc. We need to put them first. What about cavan people? So was that if there's so many cavan people who are leaving, they're leaving in droves. If we literally went this year and counted all the young Irish people that have left to go to Australia, to Canada, to New Zealand, to here, there, and everywhere, and I know so many of them. I need 6 or 7 hands to count out the last few years. How many young people myself, with their whole lives ahead of them, working people that want to get jobs and want to build a life for their family and want to have a family. They can't even get on the ladder. They can't even get the first step up that ladder. That's as simple as in this country. And these councillors are more worried about, oh, how terrible, somebody said this to me at the hour show, etc. Like, are we serious? Are we seriously talking about this? Are we seriously worried about this? Because the simple matter of, and many people in Cavan will say this, that there is far too many immigrants coming into this county, and the simple fact of the matter, that's far away extreme, and so be it. But the simple truth, we cannot house the people that are here. There's so many people on Cavan County Council's waiting lists for housing that are up to nearly 10 years in some cases. And we're sitting here, and there's so many people too that are presenting homeless to Cavan County Council, and there's nowhere to put them. There's nowhere to put them, and we're saying let's bring more people in. Like, what kind of logic is that, Councillor Williams? And I ask that with respect, because it doesn't make any sense. It really, really doesn't make any sense when you really sit down and think about it. Because there's people here, and I know so many young people myself that are in this county, they're struggling. Maybe they do have, like, I know 3 or 4 people that have a place to rent. They barely can afford it. Barely. Just barely. And these are young people in their 20s. They're working. They're going out and working for it. And they barely have enough to make ends meet. And these are young people. Hopefully someday start a family, etc. Get married, maybe. And they can't do it. And not a word from Councillor Williams about that. He's more worried about, some person said this to me at the after show, Like, let's be fair, I think there's more worries about this problem. But the simple fact of the matter, and many people have said in the Cavan, that a lot of these people coming in are getting things handed them. The simple as that, they're getting it handed to them. And that's the simple truth. And it's causing division in society. And I think these councillors need to start copping on and seeing that people are very fed up and sick of it. And especially people in Cavan, people are sick of it. And that's the simple as that. Not even just with the Virginia incident, but other incidents around the country. People are just sick of it. The system has been abused. This country has been abused. This county has been abused. And we have councillors that are more worried about people saying mean things online than we have about actually doing something about it. And I don't mean any disrespect to the councillors. I know if I was in that position too, it's frightening when you're in a political party. You're afraid to speak up. You're afraid of them coming after you. I understand. I get that. I understand that. And the media, etc. I get that. I understand that and totally understand that. I get that. So I don't mean anything against Councillor Williams, but I do think he should speak up and listen to people a bit more. Because he should be asking, how is this person coming to this conclusion? Why is this person so upset with politicians that he won't vote for anybody again? Like, you think he would have asked this person, why are you so upset? Because that man could tell you, or that woman, I'm struggling to pay the bills, council. I'm struggling to get my child through college. I'm struggling to keep my child going to school. I'm struggling to put food on the table. But no, he's just like, why? He's very confused why this person would say such a thing. And he never questioned them on why he said this, because there's clearly a reason why somebody would say this to him, and say why. Because this man is working probably, or this woman is working, his taxes have been taken off him and being squandered. Or his child's maybe thinking about moving to Australia because they can't make a life in this country. Not one word about that, not one word question about that. But as I say, a lot of people have a bad taste in the mouth over this. A lot of people do. And I mean no disrespect to the councillors. As I say, if I was sitting in their position too, I probably would be the same if you were in a political party, etc. But the simple reality is, and I mean this sincerely to people, that there has to be addressed in terms of immigration, etc. Has to be addressed in this county. And of course, the misinformation too. Don't get me wrong, I agree with them on that bit. That some people did just make up their own conclusions and stuff. But I do think, there should be more, and I do agree with them, of course, the last point to make, I do agree with them that the additional resources in Ballygym stuff need to be more Gardaí putting that out, and same with Virginia. There's no kidding about that. And what I'm trying to say, this has been said for the last 10 years. This is not like something that's brand new. It should have been done 10 years ago. And again, what are the councillors going to do about it now? I know they're on talking about the Garda Commission and stuff, but are they going to kick up holy hell? Because they can all kick up holy hell if they wanted to. They could absolutely kick up holy fucking hell if they wanted to. In the council chamber, they could kick up holy hell, but they're not kicking up holy hell. They're saying, "Oh, please, can we have a few Gardaí?" But they should be kicking up holy hell. At the moment in time, if I was a councillor, I'd be banging on Jim O'Callaghan's door. I'd be up in Dublin every day banging on his door as a councillor, saying to Jim, "What are you going to do for us?" Because at the end of the day, sending letters, because that's what they're doing here in the council. They're sending letters, sending more letters, sending letters. and the letters are going in the bin, and that's where they're going because, and it's terrible. It's really terrible because there's no leadership, and people have said this in cabinet. There is no leadership in these councillors. These councillors, you are good at sending letters, but when it comes to speaking the talk, and I know we all are scared of something. I will admit that I'm scared of things too. We all are, but it's human nature. But when you're a councillor and stuff like that, you have to put the people first. To hell and to Connacht, your salary, or whatever your political parties. The people come first, and that's the simple truth. The people voted for you. The people expect you to represent them, and that's the simple truth. And as I say, this is just my view. But as I say, as people that are, as a citizen of Cavan, even though I'm not from the Ballygym stuff area, but however you write under the sun, to say that I'm not happy with these councillors, what the situation that arose in Virginia was entirely preventable. It was all preventable. It was entirely preventable. If there was Gardaí in Virginia, and there was tougher laws, if these people knew that they would suffer dreadfully if they done something like this. But it's the fact of the matter, they basically get off with it, and that's just the simple truth. They will get off with it, and then other people basically look at that, say they got off with it, I can do it, and that's just the simple truth. But anyway, do let me know what you think. Subscribe for more and bye.